Hello and welcome back to the next episode of my Builder's video log on the VAYGRIM'S Chance Season 3 Let's Play server. In this episode, I thought we would do something a little bit different, something I had talked about a couple episodes ago, and look specifically at the logistics pipes system. Not just how I use it around my base, we'll get into that, but I thought first we would start off with really just the basics of logistics pipes and get that foundation layer laid so that we can take a look specifically at how we then use those basic tools to move stuff around the base. So with no further ado, let's go ahead and pop over to my test world and we'll take a look at the basics of logistics pipes. So this is my test world, and behind me is a very, very simple demonstration of the logistics pipes mod. Now, before we jump into that, let's just back up a step and talk about the logistics pipes mod itself. What is logistics pipes? Well, at its simplest, logistics pipes is an item transport mod. It moves things around through your base, from point A to point B, and it does that. There's just like several other mods do that. Buildcraft, Ender.io, Thermal Expansion. There's any number of item transport mods around, and you've probably bumped into a lot of them. But logistics pipes is a little bit different in the way that it works. There's a certain intelligence to it, a certain reason or rationale behind it that some of the other mods don't have. Not that they don't work well. I don't mean that in a derogatory manner, but the logistics pipe system just works differently than some other item transport systems do, and it took me a little while to sort of grasp that difference. But once I understood it, then things were so much easier for me. And so that's really one of the reasons that I'm making this episode about logistics pipes specifically, is that I'm hoping that if you're interested in logistics pipes and as excited about it as I get, then this will really help you when you're on the wrong side of the learning curve to be able to jump in and start using it as quickly as possible. So now, let's actually stop talking about logistics pipes and actually do something with logistics pipes here. So I'd said this is a demo system, and this is very, very simple. It's been simplified here to show you just the basics of how logistics pipes works. A bit about the parts and pieces here. This is a logistics pipe right here. Boom, there it is. This just happens to be a provider pipe, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. But this is a logistics pipe, and there's all kinds of specialty pipes in the mod. This is the provider. Right now it's connecting up to Buildcraft transport pipe. Now you can use logistics pipes, has its own unrouted transport pipe that works exactly like Buildcraft pipes. It's just a little bit more expensive to use. And chances are, if you've got Buildcraft in your mod pack, like in the VAYGRIM'S Chance Season 3 pack, then it's really easy to use Buildcraft pipes, and it integrates with a whole bunch of other things. If you're putting gates on it, or you're using Buildcraft robots, then you're already going to have a lot of this transport pipe around your base anyway. And so it's really nice that it integrates so easily and so efficiently with Buildcraft transport. So, but this is right here, this unrouted transport pipe. This is the logistics pipes equivalent to the Buildcraft pipe. This basic logistics pipe looks very very similar, I should say, to the unrouted transport pipe. It's got these little green lights on it. I guess it is different, but it is actually a little different beastie. It's a little bit more expensive to make, but it actually is a smarter pipe than the unrouted pipe is. And sorry, get a little drink there. And you'll see that's very important later on. So our pipe then comes over here and connects up to a supplier logistics pipe. This was a provider over here, you may remember. It connects up to a supplier logistics pipe over here. And so obviously this is going to be our destination. If you didn't notice, you were following the arrows, right? It comes from left to right and ends up over here is the way the system will flow. One thing that sort of tripped me up early on is the terminology here. These two basic pipes here get used a lot, this provider and this supplier. They get used a lot in the system. They're very, very common pipes to use. And unfortunately, their naming convention is a little bit not descriptive. I don't know another way to put it, but they don't do a very good job of describing what it is that they do. Because to my mind, anyway, and maybe it's just me, maybe you don't have this problem, but I had this problem. The term provider and supplier, they're practically synonymous, right? I mean, if somebody walked up and gave you something, did they supply you with something or did they provide you with something? I mean, you see what I mean, right? Basically, you could use either word and it would mean exactly the same thing. But unfortunately, in logistics pipes, supplier and provider are two very, very different things, practically opposites. And it took me a little bit to get that straight, and I still wouldn't get that straight, except I've been using it a fair amount now, and I'm finally got it. But here's basically the difference is the provider logistics pipes. What it's doing is it is providing the inventory into the system, right? So it's providing the system with the inventory, right? And the supplier, what it's doing is it's trying to take something from the system and supply it to the inventory. All right? So the provider is providing the inventory to the system. The supplier is supplying the system to the inventory. Okay? And that's the difference between the two. And I understood that fairly early on, but I still kept getting the terms messed up in my head. So here is how I finally found a way to make it stick. You've got provider and supplier, right? The provider pushes into the system. Provider pushes, right? And the supplier sucks from the system, right? Provider pushes, supplier sucks in a good way. It sucks like you want your vacuum cleaner to suck. The more it sucks, the better it works. So your suppliers suck, your providers push. Now, maybe that's just me, but once I finally grasped that, then everything else became very, very clear, right? So we've got here in our system here, right? We've got a provider pushing, right, into the pipe through our pipes here. We've got a supplier sucking from the system. So we should be able to grab a couple of dirt blocks here. We should put it into our crystal chest, which has been hooked up to our provider, and it's going to provide it into the system, and the supplier is going to suck it from the system and put it into, all right, it's not moving. Well, this actually is a good opportunity to explain what's different about logistics pipes. Now, I was saying that there is a certain rationality and reason to logistics pipes, in that nothing enters the system unless it's got a reason to enter the system. Now, you may think, well, there is a reason. We've got this provider here that's trying to provide the dirt over through the system, and we've got this supplier here that's trying to suck things out of the system and put it into a chest, right? Providers push and suppliers suck, right? But it's not. And the reason for that is because even though this provider is trying to push the dirt into the system, the problem is that if we look over here at this supplier that's supposed to be sucking things out of the system, we haven't told the supplier what to suck yet, right? It's totally blank here. And so even though this provider has dirt here, and it can push it into the system, because there's no place for it to go, there's no reason for it to be in the system right now because it's got no place to go. And so therefore the provider doesn't push it into the system. Now, if this were Buildcraft and this were, a wooden transport pipe, it would just be pumping away, moving that dirt through the system, and it just kind of goes where it's going to go. And if there's no place for it to go, it starts bouncing all around or falling out or whatever. Because that's the way that Buildcraft works. And nothing against Buildcraft. It's a perfectly fine system. They just have a different philosophy behind them. And that's really one of the challenges with logistics pipe, is to sort of grasp that philosophy regarding how it works and understand how it's different than the way that other item transport mods work. Because once you understand that, then you can start configuring logistics pipes in creative ways to do what you want it to do. Okay, so enough words. What happens? What happened here? So we've got dirt here. We've got a provider trying to provide it, right? It's empty, so it's trying to provide anything we put in here right now, but it's got no place to go. Well, why does it have no place to go? Because this supplier hasn't been told to go ahead and and suck dirt, right? We haven't told it what to suck, and so because this hasn't been told what to suck, it sucks nothing, and that dirt has no place to go, right? So we use a wrench whenever we configure logistics pipes. And so I'm going to right click with a wrench. And so here this supplier, this is the user interface for the supplier. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell the supplier to go ahead and keep this, to try to suck from the system dirt and to keep this inventory filled with dirt. Now look over here, you're going to see it flying through. There it goes, right? So now, boom, now it goes into the storage drawer because now it's got some place to go. It's got a reason for being inside the system, and so now it moves through the system. Really important to understand that, because otherwise logistics pipes can get really frustrating because you're tempted to think, hey, this provider should be pushing things, but it won't, because it's just got no place to go. So let's just grab another one of these, put that in here, boom, and there it goes through the system, right? Now the same thing over here, right? It doesn't ever go over here because, again, this hasn't been configured either, right? So now if I configure this, say, to pull cobble, and so now this is going to try to suck cobble out of the system and put it into this storage drawer. So now if I drop a cobble in here, right, now the provider pushes, it goes zooming through the pipe, it goes past this one because it's only been told to suck dirt, right? It won't suck anything else. This has only been told to suck cobble. It won't suck anything else. And so now we've got an efficient little sorting system here where, if I've, spent a hard day in mines and I've got a bunch of cobble and some dirt, boom, there it goes. It's going to suck the cobble and the dirt out of the system, and it's going to put it exactly where it belongs based upon the rules that I've set up for what to suck from the system and what to push into the system. Now there goes all my cobble. Right, boom, 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 boom. Now, one of the reasons, not one of the reasons, the reason why when I first set this up, it only pulled one over, right, is because I only told it to suck one, and then I told this to only keep one in there. So what I did instead is I set this to infinite, and that says, don't just get one, just keep filling up the chest with this one. That's why it sort of paused there at first. So now that I've told it infinite, it's going to start pushing the cobble in one by one. It goes through the system and finds its way over to the one place that has been told to go ahead and suck cobble from the system, or in logistics pipes terms, supply the inventory with cobble, right? So those are the basic concepts of how logistics pipes works. You've got the provider pushing from an inventory into the system. You've got a supplier that's trying to suck things out of the system and put it into an inventory. And once you understand that, then the rest really flows fairly easily. Now, there's another couple of things to watch out for. One has to do with these pipes themselves here. Now, this unrouted transport pipe, it works exactly like it says. It's unrouted. And of course, we were just talking about how routing is everything in logistics pipes. So you have to be really careful that where you put these unrouted transport pipes, because if you put them someplace that really needs a route, then some crazy things can happen. Like, for example, if I were just to drop down a couple of BuildCraft pipes here, right? Now, the thing with BuildCraft pipes is they work really well, but they're not smart, right? They move things, but they don't know anything about destinations and reasons for items in the system, right? As those packets of items go through a routed pipe, the basic logistics pipe knows exactly where it needs to go and it sends it to the appropriate place. But these buildcraft pipes don't know anything about routes and destinations. They basically say, oh, look, it's a bunch of dirt. I'm going to send it this way sometimes, and sometimes I'm going to send it that way, and I'll just do whatever I want to do with that. So you can have some funny, it's not really funny when it happens, because it can be actually quite maddening. But some rather odd things can happen to your highly organized system when you get unrouted pipes involved in there. So let's go ahead and I'll put one piece of dirt in here, and it goes up here, it goes back around. Oh, that one actually went pretty well. Let's grab a bunch of cobble here and see what happens if we get it to really mess up really nicely. Let's see what happens if the cobble goes through here. Oh, that actually worked out pretty well. That was not so bad. The unrouted buildcraft pipe can sometimes cause some really nasty routing errors. Like, oh, there you go. You see how it just took a wrong turn, right? You've kind of got like a 50-50 chance that it's going to make it the proper direction. Now it finally made its way over there. You've kind of got like a 50-50 chance that the buildcraft pipe is actually going to put the proper direction when it goes through the pipe. So the rule is, anytime you have any kind of junction in the pipe, if it's a junction just from pipe to pipe, or if it's a junction like to another storage, like for example, if I were to drop another crystal chest here, for example, right, and then put a bunch of cobble in here, there is a chance that this cobble, when it goes out of the chest, is going to end up in this in the crystal chest instead of over here where it belongs. And the reason for that is hello fingers. The reason for that is because Buildcraft doesn't know anything about routing. See, there it went, boom. And that's not at all where you wanted it to go. You put it in here, the provider says, oh, look, I've got a place to put it. It's over there. And so it sends this packet of cobble out with a destination address saying that supplier over there is where it needs to go. And so it hands it off to Buildcraft, and Buildcraft says, oh, here's a place for it. Done. And that's not where you want it to go. So again, rule is, anytime you've got one of these junctions or any place that connects to an inventory with your logistics pipe system, you always must have a smart pipe there. You can't put any dumb Buildcraft pipes in there. You can't put any dumb unrouted transport pipes in there. You always must have a smart pipe there. So if I were to do this, replace these with smart pipes there, these with smart pipes there. See, now I've got this redundant duplicate route here, which is not efficient, but it will work because now I've got these smart pipes at each junction. So if I were to grab my cobble out of here, because it don't belong there, and grab some of that, and then put it over here, then now it's going to go through the system each and every time 100% correctly, because at every junction for every pipe and for every inventory, there is a smart pipe that knows exactly how that packet of items is supposed to get routed. So always be very careful when you're putting your pipes down that it doesn't connect up to another inventory. Otherwise, you'll get some really, really nasty problems, and that can be very, very difficult to debug. Okay, so that's really the basics of logistics pipes. Like I said, there's many other pipes that you can that you come into play here, but once you understand the basics of provider and how it works, and supplier and how it works, all of the others are really just some sort of spin on the whole provider versus supplier philosophy and what it's trying to do. Everything else kind of works just like that. So once you understand that, the rest of the Buildcraft, or the rest of the logistics pipe system, really becomes much, much easier. At least it did for me as I was first learning logistics pipes. So I hope that helped you. I hope it didn't create more questions than answers. And next time we'll take a look at some of the practical applications of the logistics pipes system in my base, and see how I've used the various twists on the pushing provider and the sucking supplier in my base to get stuff done all over the base. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again very, very soon.